Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Anderson with Agri-Best Feeds, and we've got a full panelist of Agri-Best regional managers and our ownership team. And we just want to welcome you to our webinar this evening. And we've called It's in the Program for Livestock. So tonight, as we kick off, if I can get my screen to advance, there we go. I want to start off with our mission, as always. Our mission is to enhance farmer and ranchers' lives, and we do that through uniquely better products and superior customer service. Tonight, as we're talking about livestock and ranchers' goals, we want to focus on what your goals are for your ranch. And a lot of ranchers' goals circle around production. So maximizing genetic potential, health, the reproduction of those animals, longevity, average daily gain, calving, cleaning up, wean weights, all of those types of things. Matched along with your forage, getting the most out of the forage with true feed efficiency, whether that's your standing grass or hay. And then bottom line, most ranchers are concerned and want profitability out of their operation. As we look at this tonight, we're going to be looking at two different perspectives from this. One is the harvester and the other is your crop. As we look at on livestock, cow, sheep, goats, that's your harvester, and the crop being your forage, the hay that you have. And when you put those two together in the right way, you're able to produce high quality meat and milk, and hopefully some profitability in the process with that. And tonight we're going to be talking about how we can tune up the harvester to get more out of every bite of forage. So as we begin with that, with ruminants, there's two herds that we need to be looking at. There's a symbiotic relationship between the four-legged animal that we see walking around on our ranch, but also the microbes, especially the microbes in the rumen, on the ruminant, and that symbiotic relationship between the two of them. In this instance, the cow or the rumen provides the controlled environment, the home for these little microbes to live, the right amount of water, the right pH, food, brings the food that those little microbes need to live and survive in. The microbes are totally dependent on the cow for that. Constant temperature, keeping the oxygen out, kind of mixing those contents, kind of keeping that whole system working. And then also protection from the host animal's immune system. In return, those microbes take that food source, the feed source that is brought into the cow or the sheep or goats, and it breaks it down into elements that animal can actually utilize, things like protein, fat, energy, minerals. And then one of the most significant things that we'll talk about kind of throughout this whole program is the microbial protein and the value that is, not only in digesting and breaking down those forages, but also to the host animal itself when those microbes are spent. On the other side of the equation, oh, no, sorry about that, jumped the gun. We're going to stay with the rumen and that healthy rumen. And the environment in the rumen is critically important for the health of that animal and for the health of those microbes. So for a healthy optimum rumen as a forage fermenter, the optimum pH is between 6 and 6.5. When you start to drop below that 6, you run into some subacute acidosis. That's more of an unhealthy rumen. You lose some consumption, performance. You begin to have digestive health problems. And then, of course, if you get down too low, you got a sick animal, acidosis, or even death. One of the things that we don't consider very often, but is very important, is this environment in the rumen. It's very important that keeping that pH up to help reduce or eliminate the possibility of pathogens or infections taking hold. Those utilize, I guess, where we're at right now. A lot of you are across the upper Midwest and a lot of snow and cold, and it's not the best environment. Sometimes the best environment's a little further south, for at least for me. But as we're talking about the pathogens, especially like we'll throw cocci out there, it's in all of our animals. It's just a matter, does it have an ability, the foothold to be able to grow and multiply? And the big thing in the rumen is keeping that pH up to where it's the wrong environment for them and the right environment for the good bacteria. And then also you lose some milk production and begin to have repro issues when that pH is too low. And then the other part of the formula that we're looking at this evening, one is the digestive side of things, what's going on in that harvester. But then also here, we're going to look at your forages. There's basic nutritional needs of those animals. There's protein energy needs. There's minerals, trace minerals, vitamins, and other nutrients that they get out of their forages, out of the grass or hay. And each different animal has a different requirement of those, and different stages of growth have a little bit different requirements, but all of those are coming from the lion's share is coming from your forages. So now as we move into our program, where we say it's in the program, what we do is we take your forage, add the SweetPro plus Redmond, and that's a complete balanced ration. And so we'll start to unpack that, and then we'll come back around to how this program fits into how God's designed those animals and maximize the use of that forage. I want to start this evening with building a SweetPro block. Starts out with a very powerful vitamin, mineral, trace mineral program. About 50% of the zinc, copper, and manganese are chelated or organically complexed, so very bioavailable in SweetPro. And there's a lot of great vitamin and mineral programs out there. We feel that this one's one that's uniquely better. But as we move on, we begin to separate from a lot of the other supplements on the marketplace. A lot of that is because of what we use as our carrier. SweetPro uses dry distillers grains with solubles and also condensed distillers solubles as the carrier. And as we look at that, we want to just take a quick look for you guys down in the Midwest and know and understand the ethanol plants. This is really review for you, but for some of us that are not in those areas, basically this is the process of how the ethanol plant works. They bring in, a lot of times they use corn, and they like to use corn because about 2/3 or more of corn is starch. So very easily to convert that starch into alcohol. And the way that they convert that is they run it through a hammer mill, liquefy it, add yeast and enzymes, and then put it in this big fermentation tank over here. Interesting process on a cow or a sheep or goat, any ruminant. You've got this same process that's happening. They're going to take their feed source in, run it through their hammer mill of their teeth, liquefy it with their saliva, and then add yeast and enzymes. That's what's happening in the rumen. If you're on a horse, back in the cecum. And so it's very similar process. So what we're getting is a pre-digested product, the dry distillers grains with solubles and condensed distillers solubles. They've been basically pre-digested through the ethanol plant. Then, of course, the ethanol plant distills the alcohol off. So out of that corn, you can think of basically 3 equal parts. The carbon dioxide that's released or captured in the process, the alcohol that they're making, and then this dry distillers grains and condensed distillers solubles, your distillers grains part of it. So what we have is a multifaceted supplement. So now we've got digestible fiber, which is a complex carbohydrate as opposed to a starch or sugar. And that's going to be very important because the same microbes break that down. There's different microbes in the rumen that break down sugars and starches and that break down fibers and complex carbohydrates. And so that's significant. There's different enzymes that break those down as well. And what you're also getting is rumen degradable protein, rumen bypass protein. The rumen degradable protein is the protein that's utilized by the microbes in the rumen. Rumen bypass or undegradable protein is the protein that's utilized directly by that animal. And you've also got excellent fat source. And this is all condensed 3 times. So you get the value of the distiller's grains, the corn coming out of the back of the ethanol plant is basically 3 times the value of the corn going in when you start to look at value for supplementation. So that separates us, like say most other carriers are either molasses space is probably your biggest one out there, or some sort of grain base. And then what really separates us from everyone is our powerful digestive aid. We call it our golden nugget of probiotin. Basically letting you know what we do and how probiotin is developed is we go back into that same process, but instead of using corn, we're using wheat, oats, barley, and flax. So that gives you a wide amino acid profile, your building blocks of protein. And then run that through that same process, liquefy it, add yeast and enzymes, put it in a big fermentation tank. And that's what probiotin is. Instead of distilling the alcohol off, we just stop that process right at that point and just blend that whole process back into the tub. So you're getting yeast and enzymes and you get some of the alcohol, the energy value, some palatability that's coming in from the probiotin. So that's basically the SweetPro. And we're going to talk a little bit about Redmond now. It's not, well, it is as complex as SweetPro, but it's interesting because it's a mined sea mineral. So there's 60 plus naturally occurring trace minerals. We're actually in the mine right here. We're probably 300-400 foot under the ground right now where they're mining there. And there's 2 salt mines in the world that we're aware of that has a plethora of trace minerals still intact in those salt mines. The Himalayan salt over in Pakistan would be another example, fairly similar to the same makeup as the Redmond salt mine. But most other salt mines are pure white, like walking into a snowball. All you have left is sodium and chloride, or more of a dirty salt where you've got dirt and salt kind of mixed together. This is actually salt, 60 plus naturally occurring trace minerals in crystalline form. And that crystalline form is the most bioavailable form of mineral that there is. It can dissolve completely in liquid and penetrate through plant and animal cell membrane by itself. So it doesn't have to attach to something else, or so it's very, very bioavailable. This quote comes from Maynard Murray from his book, Sea Energy Agriculture. The quantitative analysis of the element in blood has essentially the same profile as a quantitative analysis of the elements found in ocean water, including large amounts of sodium chloride. And what we find in the Redmond salt mine is basically the same analysis, other than, of course, not the water content as you have in the oceans. But that is a significant thing when we start to look at animal health and performance, and something that Redmond brings to the table that is really significant, and something we as producers should definitely be considering. Also, and part of the reason potentially that Redmond, this salt mine is actually, my understanding is it basically is under most of Utah, but at Redmond, it turns and goes vertical, and it's right at the surface. Basically, that's how the salt mine was discovered. But there's a layer of volcanic ash that lays right on top of this salt mine. And that's the other product that Redmond has that we market that has some very interesting characteristics in and of itself. So the volcanic ash, it's called the conditioner, and it's a balance of 60 plus natural minerals in colloidal form. So once again, you're getting a plethora of all of these minerals, just as God has put them together in the salt mine and then the volcanic ash, all the rare earth minerals that have come up through that. Excellent in rumen buffering, actually matches sodium bicarb as far as the rumen buffering characteristics, plus has all the minerals, additional minerals in it, plus is an excellent toxin binder, and it boosts feed efficiency. So that's kind of Redmond's offering. Is most everything is based back on either the sea mineral, the salt, or the volcanic ash, the conditioner. So when we take that and put that into our formula here this evening, we take your forage plus the SweetPro plus Redmond, and we come up with a complete balanced ration. This contains your probiotic, that powerful digestive aid, the energy you're needing, the protein, minerals, your trace minerals, both chelated and colloidal and crystalline, and then also your vitamin needs. And what we're seeing with this is we get about 25% more digestible nutrients, your protein, energy, and other nutrients from your forage. So every bite of forage that your cow or your sheep, goats take, they're going to be able to break that down about 25% better. So we're going to go back and revisit the forage side of our equation. So once again, we've got our basic nutritional needs. So that animal needs X amount of protein, X amount of energy, X amount of this trace mineral, X amount of that mineral or vitamins. And the forage and hay is providing most of that, but at some point that is lacking. So you're short on something. And one of the things in most every situation is salt is going to be lacking. So we recommend that you're always supplementing with salt in just about any livestock situation, at least a free choice salt out there for them. Of course, we recommend the Redmond salt for that, the reason that we've talked about already. We feel it's a better approach. But in these other areas, you'll be lacking potentially protein a lot of times of the year. And so we supplement. So we add a supplement, and the supplement basically fills in the gaps where the grass or hay is lacking. And we feel SweetPro is a uniquely better supplement because it does a phenomenal job of not only filling in the gaps on your protein side, it also brings some energy along with it, filling in the gaps there, and your vitamin mineral trace mineral program that comes along with it. But because of your probiotic, we're actually, that whole SweetPro package is taking your total digestible nutrients. So in this example we had here, we just gave a TDN of 50 total digestible nutrients. And so if we get 25% more digestible nutrients out of that hay or grass that we're eating, if it was 50% TDN, it's still 50% TDN, but we're actually getting, and it's actually performing like a 62% TDN, total digestible nutrient forage. And that's huge when we start to look at the numbers and looking at profitability and how we can maximize the use of that forage. And then of course, we always recommend the Redmond natural trace mineral salt, the salt need that's always there, but it provides a complete trace mineral tune-up. So when you start to look at that it's in the program for SweetPro and Redmond with your forage, we're seeing that we've got an excellent supplement. We also activate your forage. It's actually your harvester. We're activating those microbes, getting more of those microbes working for you. And we have a tremendous safety net. And it's one of those things when you start to look at supplementation, a lot of supplement programs will basically look at that need. Okay, what is the cattle lacking or your sheep lacking, and what's the minimum approach that we can do to meet that particular area. And one of the things that we've seen over our, I guess we're getting close to 15 years that we've been working, or maybe more than that, almost getting close to 20 years working with this program, is that a lot of those gaps are being closed by a more holistic approach of supplying the SweetPro. It has a little bit more than maybe you need in a particular area, but that the fullness of what's there, or the Redmond salt, what's there, is bridging that gap and helping support your harvester, the livestock themselves, and getting more out of your forage. So now we're going to run back into the rumen side, back inside that cow and into that environment and the importance of that environment. So there's a term out there that's called the negative associative effect. And what that definition is the negative effect of starch digestion on fiber digesting bacteria in the rumen. So there's different bacteria that break down different feed types and elements in the rumen. And what we're really focusing on in most of our situations is these fiber digesting bacteria. And so, as we've already talked about, the healthy optimum rumen pH is 6 to 6.5. Now we can supplement, like say most supplements are grains or molasses, starches or sugars, and it's not necessarily bad or wrong using starches or sugars, but they do tend to pull down on the pH in the rumen. So you lose some digestive efficiency, and there's different bugs in the rumen or digestive bugs, microbes that need to be there to be able to break down that supplement. Of course, we know if we get too much starch too fast, our animals go off feed, and then we can have some pretty serious issues there. What we'd like to present this evening is that there's a uniquely better approach to supplementation, and that is through our SweetPro complex carbohydrates, and your Redmond products actually pull up on the pH in the rumen, and the same digestive bugs break down our complex carbohydrates as break down your forages. So there's no negative associative effect in the rumen, no competition there. It's actually complementary, and we're building that environment. We're building feeding those microbes so that there's more of them, the right environment, and we feel that that's a better approach to supplementation. Of course, in a lot of our situations, whether on a feedlot situation, or if we're using a TMR, or we've got some grains and things going into our ration or into the animals, the SweetPro can actually help pull that pH back around. 1 pound of SweetPro replaces about 3.5 pounds of grain, so you can feed a little bit less grain and get more value out of that. And then, of course, our conditioner with Redmond is almost a must in feedlot situations, as far as a excellent rumen buffer, and just covers a lot of bases. And we can talk more about that in the Q&A here later on if we want to delve into that. So now we're staying inside the rumen, just with a little bit different picture. I'm not a very good artist here, so you'll have to bear with me. These little donuts are fiber digesting microbes, and we're looking at a rumen. Got your forage and your grass. They're happy in doing that. When we start to supplement, if we supplement with a grain or molasses, there's different digestive microbes, and that's the negative associative effect that we talked about. We've got some decrease in digestive efficiency. Going with that same picture and supplementing with the SweetPro, we've got the same microbes, and it multiplies the number of microbes. And this is the positive associative effect. We've got increase in digestive efficiency. And then, of course, we support that with the Redmond natural trace mineral, those little microbes in the rumen. They need all of those different little trace minerals in little amounts of that as well. So Redmond improves the health of those microbes. We've got more microbes. We've got the right environment for those microbes. We've actually got your prebiotic oligosaccharides. That's a big word for the food for the microbes that are in your probiotics. The prebiotics are food for the probiotics, and SweetPro brings that alongside. And so that just helps get that rumen as healthy and efficient and effective as possible. One other thing I want to just touch on real quickly, and I'll kind of click through this pretty quick, but it's SweetPro's approach to protein, usable versus available. One of the things that we see quite often is people coming in and saying, I need 30% protein for my calves or whatever that they're looking for. And with SweetPro, protein is hugely important because it's important of that animal's needs. But SweetPro's approach to protein is, we feel it's a better, more holistic approach. And these are kind of some of the reasons why. With the SweetPro, we've got the rumen degradable protein. That's the protein that's utilized by the microbes in the rumen. But there's also distillers grains has a high rumen bypass or rumen undegradable protein value in it. And that rumen bypass goes directly, it goes through the rumen and is able to be absorbed in the through the rest of the small intestine and the digestive system, that the animal is able to utilize that directly for muscle development, bone, and also milk production. Is rumen bypass protein is hugely important for that. Limiting amino acid. The building amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and wherever that limiting amino acid is, it doesn't matter how much protein you pour in, it's going to stop at that or overflow there and just pass through that animal. Each grain source has a different amino acid profile, and so corn has a different one than the wheat, oats, barley, and flax, but you start to overlay those, and those staves on those buckets go higher and higher because of all of the different fermented grain sources that we have in SweetPro. We also have energy that comes in there, and in the rumen, it takes both energy and protein to have that work together, and that rumen to work efficiently and effectively. And we've talked about the probiotin, the value of the pH in the rumen, keeping that up there. The moss that comes in, we actually have 4 different prebiotics that come in to feed the probiotics, and the value of all of that works together is very important. Some of our products do not have any NPN, non-protein nitrogen, in them. But the ones that do, we use ammonium sulfate and biuret, which is a slower release protein that's better utilized over time. It's kind of like putting a log on a fire versus pouring gasoline on the fire, where you get the urea kind of hits fast. Very dangerous for horses to get into urea. They can't handle that. All of the SweetPro is totally safe for horses. And a lot of that has to do with ammonium sulfate and biuret, how we utilize that. And then we're getting about 25% more digestible nutrients out of your forage. So whatever your forage has available in it, we're boosting that. And the microbial protein, we'll learn here at the end, is the most important protein value that there is. And we get all of that on about a pound of SweetPro. So we'll kind of fly through a few more slides here on talking about how to feed our program. We start by choosing the hardness of tubs. basically all these tubs are the same. It's got the vitamin trace minerals in it. It's got the SweetPro in it. It's got the digestive aid in it. All it is that we're trying to target is about a pound per head per day, matching your forage to the size and class and age of animal that you have. So heifer development programs, we're down here on the left side. Mature cows, kind of normal forage situation. We usually are here on the fibermate 20s or so, and into some harsh conditions, we're over here on the right, but it's that target of a pound per head per day. And we're seeing that as we're using this program, one of the things that people ask, well, do you have a breeding block? Well, the answer is yes. Well, which one? Well, all of them. They all support that because of the things that we've been talking about throughout this presentation. How about a high mag block? Do you have something to protect against grass tetany? Well, utilizing these over time, that builds up in the system, and it's interesting. We've had some guys that have looked at some high mag tubs, and our regular tubs match or exceed what some of the competition have on their high mag tubs. For weaning, for increasing weaning weights and cutting down stress, it's all in the tubs. It's all there already. So when the goal is to keep that daily consumption on target. So we do that through the hardness of the blocks, which we talked about on the last page. But you as a producer, you can fine tune that down as much as you want. And so our recommendation is at a 250 pound tub would do 25 head for 10 days. So we recommend putting the Redmond salt out and keeping that out throughout the whole time. Keep that free choice all the time. If you're able to do like a SR65 or SR50, that's just a blend between the Redmond salt and conditioner. And that's an excellent way to do that with free choice, but keep that in front of them all the time so that they can get it if and when they need it. But as far as on the SweetPro, put that block out on day 1 and say it runs out on day 7 or 8, and you want to keep that at a pound per head per day. Just don't put another block out until day 10. The way God's created those animals, they take on a protein load and a mineral load and utilize that over time. And that's what when we're talking about space feeding, that's what we're talking about. So SweetPro, we have some options with SweetPro. You kind of got the peak performance is what we've been talking about throughout this webinar so far, is the SweetPro tubs. And here the last year and a half, 2 years, SweetPro has actually come out with a powerful loose mineral program. They still have the Mineral EX tub, which is the 250 pound tub, looks just like this one up here. It's just more mineral dense and a lower consumption rate. Or you can use the loose mineral, and we've got everything from the Breed Sept that has double the probiotin, and the Breed Sept and Defender have the chelated minerals, kind of the top of the line, top shelf mineral package, down to the Pro, which is just kind of your base mineral pack, but still has the probiotin in it. So you're getting that digestive aid and all the values that come along with that. I'm going to pop over now real quick to our website. So this is agribestfeeds.com, and I want to talk about a few real ranchers and real results. And so what I'm going to do is go to the cattle page here. And so you can find these and kind of visit on those however you want to. There's a you scroll all the way down, or you can just click on this resources and links, and it takes you down to the bottom here where you got real ranches and real results. And we're going to start out with hay savings. This is how Agri-Best Feeds actually started. Well, that's a little too big. Sorry about that. So this is my father-in-law, Irv Heidel. Agri-Best Feeds is a family business, and I think Kevin and Daryl, I don't know if Dean's on here this evening, but my brother-in-laws and myself, back in 2004, SweetPro came and talked to my father-in-law, and let's see, get that to pop back up there again. And basically, SweetPro came and talked to him and said that 1 pound of SweetPro replaces about 3.5 pounds of grain or cake, and mature cattle eat up to 25% less hay. And my father-in-law told, it was Bob Thornburg, the creator of this of SweetPro, told him that that's too good to be true. But he ended up doing a ranch trial. So he had a dry lot situation with 8 big round bale feeders and a good supplement program. Cattle looked good, and so his trial, he took the supplement out, filled the bale feeders out, put SweetPro in, and in 6 weeks, his hay was lasting 28% longer. So that's what really started the process of Agri-Best Feeds, digging into starting to market the SweetPro, but really digging into why are we seeing such good results from this, and some of that is coming from some of the science and things I've been talking about here today. So we'll pop back over, I think, get back over to Real Ranchers, Real Results, and I want to pull up Herzog's heifer development program. So Kevin Heidel, my brother-in-law, actually did their heifer development program for 7 or 8 years. And this was probably year 6 or 7 into it. Basically, their heifer development program was they had their cows on the Fibermate 20s and Redmond for pre-weaning, and then they wean the heifers onto cattle candy, and then moved them to SweetPro 16 at some point and Redmond, and they just wintered out on grass, dry grass, all winter in eastern Montana, and had a natural breeding program, and pretty significant. So they're probably in that high 90s in 60 days by this time. And then they continued on SweetPro and Redmond till they shipped midwinter and through calving as 3-year-olds. The significant thing, the great value as the heifer development program and what was happening with those heifers and their calves, but really significant when you start to look at high 90s for the 3-year-olds coming back and breeding back as 3-year-olds. So that's another significant one I wanted to draw your attention to. And here, this Real Ranch comparison. This is a ranch down in Wyoming, and it's one of our dealers. It's actually the lady that does our social media posts. So if you're not on our Facebook, sign up on that. But anyway, they had 900 head of cattle and had 2 brothers, and they ended up splitting the herd in half. And we actually didn't know about this until actually the year after it, other than that their sales ended up going down a little bit that year. But they split the herd in half, so you got the same genetics on the same ranch, but basically different management programs. And that's one of the things that we at Agri-Best want to do, is come alongside and help you with your management program decisions, making the most of what you've got and the way that you want to develop your ranch and herd and enterprise. So as we heard about this, they split them halfway down the middle, and the one group, these guys have been, all 900 of them have been on SweetPro Fibermate 20s year round. They just kept them year round. Didn't matter how much they were eating. They just put them out every time that they'd run out. They ended up averaging about 9/10 of a pound on that program. Of course, sometimes a little bit more in the heart of the winter. During the spring, a little bit less, but year-round average was right at 9/10 of a pound of what they had. And it was costing them at that time. Once again, this is back in 2016. So these prices are probably a little bit lower than what they are now. But it's costing them about $60-some thousand for the supplement program. The one brother decided, well, I'm going to make those girls work for their living, and I'm going to put $60,000 in my pocket. What ended up happening there was the breed back on the SweetPro group was at 95+%, and the salt and range grass program was at 82%. So 13% better preg rate. But the big part was that their calves weaned off at 122 pounds heavier. And back at this time at a $1.30 on calves, that additional weight ended up being $63,000. So that paid for all of the supplement, plus put an additional $3,000 in their pocket without looking at the additional number of calves that they had on the ground as well. So some significant things that we're seeing there. I want to go back here to our website. I want to pull two more quick things here, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Just want to show you our feed calculator. So once again, as we look at this, this is probably the easiest one here, the net day cost with hay savings, comparing supplementation with SweetPro versus a molasses product. So what this is saying is take our price of our supplement, and you can, these are dynamic calculators, so you can put in whatever you want. But this example is showing our price of SweetPro at $150 for 250 pounds. And at a pound of consumption, you're at 60 cents a day. And say your molasses supplement, we've found that most of the time a reputable product with good chelated mineral package, basically their basic product is the same as our premium one. If they start to add moss or flax or different things in it, that price seems to go up. But at this rate, we're saying they're equal. And cost of hay per ton, I know that's, I used to say all over the board, but it's really not all over the board. It's just pretty high these days. But at $200 a ton hay, we're just going to use that as an example on this cost of hay. And if we're feeding 30 pounds, what we see with SweetPro is hay savings. So we get 25% more digestible nutrients out of that hay. Cattle perform better on less hay. So instead of feeding 30 pounds, and a lot of times what ranchers are doing aren't cutting hay back, but are putting the SweetPro out, and pretty soon, and they were rolling out 4 bales, and now they're laying in it and not cleaning it up. So pretty soon they're back to 3 bales. So using this formula here, what they're showing is that hay savings at 10 cents per pound actually paid for all of the SweetPro, plus put 15 cents in your pocket. So fairly significant. And of course, on the molasses will actually molasses will actually stimulate appetite. So cattle eat more. Concept they eat more, they do better. When that pH pulls down in the rumen, that stimulates appetite. They want to go out and eat more to buffer that rumen. So that's kind of the physiology that's going on there. And say there's some supplements that talk about increasing dry matter intake up to 33%. I'm just using a 10% on this particular calculation. So now the day cost of these supplements are exactly the same, 60 cents, but the net day cost is a difference of over a dollar. So you got 15 extra cents in your pocket versus 90 cents. So, and you can change any of these numbers as you go along. I'm going to go back real quick. And just as I know, we got some guys on here that run some yearlings or cow-calf pairs out and want to put some extra pounds through the summer. If you're getting one of the things that we're seeing with our program is we can increase the average daily gain. Seems like about by 0.4 of a pound. So this just calculator goes through and looks at that and say if you're at $2 calves, the number of days that you're on there, you want to pick up about $51 additional profit per head by actually using SweetPro as opposed to just a mineral program. We cannot do the mineral if you're just using the mineral, the SweetPro mineral tub. You get about 0.2 of a pound of average daily gain boost. And so that similar calculation as you go through there. Well, I've been doing a lot of talking. I better quit here. Just want to note here, you can find a dealer on this page. Also, upcoming webinars next week, we're going to be talking about sea minerals and volcanic ash for soil health. So for hay ground, silage, farm ground, even pasture land. Encourage you to sign up for that, and we'll talk about that next week. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at a fairly similar program as we just talked about this evening, but focused in on equine, which the digestive system on the horse is a little bit more complex and less forgiving. So we'll look at that in a couple of weeks. So feel free to jump on the website and sign up for those even this evening, and you'll get reminders as that comes closer. So as we wrap up here, this quote came from Clint Swanson with Ship Wheel Cattle Company. He's saying, having access to the products that have all these benefits is very exciting in today's world of agriculture. At this point, I'm very comfortable recommending the SweetPro and Redmond salt combination. And its conclusion, I suppose it would have been nice for me to start out with this, but could have been a good introduction, but a good conclusion as well. This comes out of the Oklahoma State University calf beef cattle manual. It says for efficient beef cattle nutrition, cattlemen must meet the dietary needs of both the cow and the ruminant microorganisms. This requires a combination of scientific knowledge, creativity, and management skills. Feeding programs should maximize microbial protein productions first, and then meet the additional nutrient requirements over and above those not met by the microbial fermentation end products. So that focus on the microbes is very important as we look at our program. So once again, our program, it's in the program. Your forage plus the SweetPro, flax, moss comes standard with it. No molasses, no urea. Plus the Redmond is that complete balanced ration, and kind of fits all of those different areas and stage of growth and timing in your production process. And we also do have available natural extracts, the garlic for insect repellent in either the SweetPro or the Redmond, or the stress blend, which is clove, cinnamon, and chili pepper. And that's a whole nother topic. We can talk about that a little bit now as we get into a little bit of Q&A. I'm going to stop my screen share here. And so we've got a group of panelists. We've got, so Ty is from Miles City. He's a regional manager that works down in that area. Vince Guthrie is down out of Nebraska. He kind of works over there. Joe works down in Wyoming. And let's see, I saw Dwayne there. I'm not sure where Dwayne went. He was there. He kind of oversees the whole territories. Ty, anyway, Todd is works with our regional or our retail stores, and then also with nutrition questions. So it's great to have these guys on. So let's see, Daryl, are you with us? Is there some questions or anything? If you got questions, go ahead and either raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Or if you've typed any questions in, Daryl can answer or ask them anyway. Daryl's one of the owners of the business here, and Kevin is there somewhere. He's one of the owners as well, and Dean's on here too. So any questions, guys? I did a
No,
lot of talking, sorry.
Dwayne's on, but he's having trouble getting totally connected. So
Okay, so Dwayne's here. We can work on it. If I can find him, I can move him over, but any questions, guys? Raise your hand. So Cody, let's see, allow to talk. I think if I push that button. Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself, Cody.
All right, can you hear me?
Well, your voice changed, Cody.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Cody is in the field with a cow that's calving.
There you
So
go.
yeah, I'm watching for him. And he informed me that I had to run in here and jump on this. And I think you'd already gotten started without me. So is there somewhere to watch the live stream of this back? Is it, I noticed it's been recording.
Yes. So it'll be on, there's two different places you can pick that up. One is on YouTube. Agri-Best Feeds has a YouTube channel, and I don't know how you find it. I suppose you type in Agri-Best Feeds in the search bar and that'll pop up. But also it'll be on that same place where you registered for the webinar on agribestfeeds.com under the webinar tab. And that we'll see how my technology works. Should be up and rolling by tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, excellent. And then as far as the feed utilization, do you see a big difference kind of based on like feed program as far as so on some years we use fillers like straw, and some years we don't. Is there a big difference when you're supplementing, you know, kind of a forage that's designed to be a filler with the tubs?
Okay, excellent. Good question. Anybody on the panel want to jump in and grab that before I do?
I will if nobody else does.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Anytime you're supplementing a low protein forage like straw, corn stalk, something like that, it is definitely important to have a supplement like we offer for that. Just for the simple reason, it's a great filler and there's some energy involved. However, you need a vitamin and mineral package as well as a protein to help utilize that feed.
Okay, excellent.
I think one of the things to keep in mind there, we're getting about 25% more digestible nutrients out of every bite. Now, if you're getting 25% more digestible nutrients, so in some ways this is a little bit of a management challenge, or as you're figuring that out, because you can kind of go two different directions on that. One, if you've got, say, dairy quality hay, that's meeting and exceeding a lot of the nutrient needs of a cow that would have, that's not producing that amount of milk. And so you get 25% more digestible nutrients out of that, but that's above and beyond what that cow can even utilize. So you're losing a little bit, potentially some efficiency on in that example. An example you were talking about, or Joe was talking about, you're getting 25% more digestibility out of straw, but there's not that much there. So you may not get that full, like that hay savings and things like that we see. So that hay savings, just figuring on that mature cattle average score on a maintenance diet with good quality forage, hay or grass.
Okay, excellent. And then my second question is on multiple cattle products. I've noticed that you advertise as not having any molasses in it. And then I just heard the end where you were talking about rumen pH and how lowering that pH causes cattle to consume more. And so is that kind of how you come to the realization that they're going to eat 25% less, is that your products don't have molasses in them?
That's a pretty, yeah, it's a yes and no.
Scott, I can talk to that.
Go ahead, Todd.
Sorry. This is Todd Daniels. I'll speak to that a little bit. So there's a couple of things there that we can address as far as molasses versus the DDG and things like that. So there's some effects that you're going to have just based on the fact that you're from using a molasses based product. You're going to be introducing starches and sugars that don't necessarily optimize the fiber digesting bacteria that are needed for that, but and in increasing those hay savings or what have you. But the other part of that and something that is unique only to the SweetPro products is the probiotin, and it's something that Scott talked about. But the with that product, we're able to optimize the microbial populations in such a way that they're able to you're maximizing or optimizing the fiber digesting bacteria and really quote unquote getting rid of bad bacteria and feeding good bacteria in such a way that you're able to get more out of that existing fiber source or that existing forage, just on the mere fact that you've got just more bacteria there doing the job that they were intended to do. So that's kind of where that comes from. That's where that hay savings and that opportunity to improve efficiency comes from. Kind of two different things. One, you're not producing a pH in the rumen that is unsatisfactory to a fiber digesting bacteria population. And then secondly, you're introducing the probiotin, which is a food source for those fiber digesting bacteria, but also has an ability to remove pathogenic or bad bacteria that might be competing with those fiber digesting bacteria. So there's a couple of different things going on there. It's a little complex, but hopefully I didn't confuse the issue too much there. But
No, not at all. I went to school for biology, so that
Great.
I like to understand what the root deal is about that. That's obviously not what I'm going to say to the rancher down the road that asks me about this, but they're going to ask me why it doesn't have molasses in it. So that's what we're looking at being dealers. That's why I hopped on the call today.
Right.
I'm trying to learn about the products, and so that's a good start.
If I can add something, so I sold molasses tubs for years, and molasses is simply a carrier to get the good stuff into the cattle. So that's why Todd was saying the things he was. That's all it is a carrier. It gets animals to eat it. That's it. There's not a lot of nutritional benefit to molasses. So just
and if you're exactly right, Joe. And the one thing that they've found, like it's interesting when you look at any of the research data that's out there related to that, they talk about increased gains and increased whatever parameter they're looking at, like cattle weights, weaning weights, all these kinds of things, but they never talk about efficiency, because the one thing that molasses does, and it also does it to humans as well, and it's part of the sugar and how those things drive intake and hormonal control. But the thing that it does drive is intake. So you're continually driving more and more dry matter intake with a molasses type product, but the efficiency is not getting any better. You're just eating more, which has made me fat and sassy over the years, but hasn't helped my efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. I by training and by nature, I'm a horse person. And so I absolutely, I hate to see molasses on a feed label of any sort. And so, that's something that I definitely agree with. And sometimes it's hard to explain, why you don't want molasses in a product to these cow guys, because they think it's a cheap form of energy, essentially, in their opinion, but it definitely isn't.
Well, excellent. Well, thanks, Lorna. Any other questions out there? Thanks, Joe and Todd, for fielding that. Other questions? I guess one of the things I like to think about on that particular topic is, you're starting out with your forages and at a baseline, and I guess Bob Thornburg talks about this a little bit. And sometimes when you add molasses, there's actually a decrease or some inefficiencies, or you kind of go backwards a little bit before you can go forwards with your supplement, kind of like Joe was talking about there. And that's one of the nice things with the way he's developed this is it's all forward basically because of all the stuff that Todd's talking about there. So all right, and I guess I'm not sure how to put your hand down unless you're done. You might have to put it down, Lorna. Any other questions out there? There's great communication back and forth here. No, it's right at the hour here, so don't want to hold you. You can kind of drop off anytime, but there's other questions with the crew we've got here. We're more than welcome to stick around for a little bit and answer questions.
Oh yeah, there was a question that was typed just asking whether there are any success stories of operations utilizing the conditioner, the Redmond conditioner, and definitely on feedlots, bull developers turning around sick and underperforming animals, getting them back on track. The conditioner has been huge in those situations. Yeah, so the conditioner is a kind of something we haven't spent a lot of time on, but it has got some huge benefits. And mainly, what we've seen is in those feedlot situations where the animals are kind of being pushed hard on some hotter rations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a super good product.
And one of our biggest challenges on conditioner has been how to feed it. I mean, if you got a TMR, definitely encourage you to get that in there. It's pretty easy to force feed. We do have we've started doing a lot more now with mixing the salt and conditioner together, and that's been fairly successful even on a free choice there. Carson, do you have any additional feedback to that off your cuff there?
Not a lot. I think you guys did a good job covering it. But like Scott said, sometimes the hardest thing with conditioner is figuring out how to put it in your operation. Because once you do, you will probably not go back from using it. It's just kind of figuring out how you're going to use it. So I recommend anyone who's starting conditioner, when you're putting your bag of Redmond salt out, just put a quarter of a bag of conditioner in that and mix it up. That's a good way to start. And then you can add more conditioner to where you can just buy SR50 after that, because the cows will get a taste for it. But you asked if there's any good success stories, and I could probably name off a whole bunch. I hear about it all the time. Usually I have more raving fans of conditioner than anything else. When someone can figure out how to put it in their operation, they love it. You just see really cool effects like higher breed up, less heat stress when, cows going and cycling, in hot summer days when they're not doing it before. So there's a lot of cool things, with conditioner, but that's kind of a broad question. So I don't know how to quite answer it correctly, but.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Carson. Carson's our rep from Redmond that oversees us and keeps us in line. So thanks for jumping on here, Carson, and I appreciate it.
And Margene reminded me just barely to mention it, toxin binding, because it is really amazing at toxin binding. So if you're feeding, you might not think your cattle are into toxins, but if you're feeding hay, the good chance that you're going to have toxins in your hay. So it's a great toxin binder too.
Yeah, and as we talk, that's going to be one of our larger topics when we get onto the equine side and the importance of that toxin binding and kind of that whole digestive system, keeping that straight. So tune into that here in a couple of weeks. Other questions? Anything else there, Daryl, that you had?
Scott, one thing I might throw in there that we didn't talk about, but both the SweetPro and the Redmond products are fit all natural programs and NHTC programs. We have the affidavits available. So I know some products that you get into, there's some concerns there with Rumensins and Bovitex and feather meals and different things, and we don't have any of that. So rest assured that we can fit your program when you go to market your calves.
Can I add one more thing, Scott?
Yep, go ahead.
Oftentimes because I sell salt, most of the questions I get are like, how much could the 60 trace minerals actually mean? Salt is salt, yours is just a different color salt, but it's all the same. We did a really cool trial up in Montana with Montana State University, and one group of cattle was given white salt, the other group of cattle was given Redmond salt. And in 84 days, which is not very long, the calves on the Redmond group gained 23 more pounds than the calves on the white salt group. So there is efficiencies added because Redmond, the minerals and all that, like Scott said, it works really well with the microbes in the rumen. It just gets them going and gets them being more efficient. So just to add that.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Carson, for that, and Ty on the all natural programs. Definitely visit with your regional sales manager or your dealer, or give us a call here. Our phone number direct at our office is 866-601-6646. Of course, you can find that on the website, and then we can get you directed to your right dealer, or if you're not a dealer in the area where you are, we can deliver product directly to you and take care of you on that. Other questions here? I don't want to cut anybody off. If there's any other burning questions or comments, anybody? Yes, I'm not seeing any. Daryl, you see anything on your end?
Now, we had one question just on the ratio of conditioner and garlic salt, free choice to cattle. On the garlic, if you're using it for your pest control, you just want to make sure you're not diluting it down to the point where it's not effective. So having that as a standalone is always a good thing. The conditioner, you can put in, like Carson was saying, start with a quarter conditioner and 3/4 of the salt, and main thing is just want to, if you watch your animals, make sure that they're not being bothered by flies. You don't want to dilute that garlic down to the point that it's not effective. So, but yeah, the conditioner is important enough to get into them somehow. So.
All right. Well, I think with that, thanks guys for attending and participation this evening, and we'll welcome you back. Like I say, next week we'll be working on the sea minerals and volcanic ash on the soil health side of things. So if you got any hay ground, crop land, even pasture land, looking at building soil health and how the synergy of these minerals can work together on that, sign up for the webinar, and we'll run at it again next week at the same time. And then the following week is that Final Four? Is that the championship day? Monday night? Boy, I don't know. Anyway, happy spring to everybody too. My bracket's all busted, so I guess I'm gonna be here for the equine webinar on the 3rd of April. So anyway, thanks a bunch, guys. Have a great evening. And any questions, reach out to your regional sales manager or to your dealers or directly to us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.